select a set of cipher from the cipher suite, and also you have the compression method. After that, for the phase one, the client and the server know the following: the SSL version, the algorithms for the key exchange, method authentication and encryption, the compression method, and the random number. In phase two, the server key exchange and authentication. From the diagram, you can see the certificate, the server key exchange, the certificate request, the server hello done. In case of the certificates, the server sends the certificate message to authenticate itself, and the message includes a list of certificates of type X509. The server key exchange, that's after the certificate message. The server will send a server extend message that includes the server public key. The server may require the client to authenticate itself. So the server cannot request the certificate from the client if it's not using anonymous or Dave Hellman, which you'll see as DH on the following slides. Or the server hello done. This is the last message in the phase two, which is a signal to the client that phase two is over and that the client needs to start phase three. So there are 4 cases in phase two. We have RSA, anonymous or Dave Hellman or DH, fixed one, and ephemeral. Let's see what these cases are. In case of the RSA, the certificate is in this method, the encryption and the decryption is based on the public key certificate, in the first message. The second message, however, is empty because of the premaster secure is generated and sent back to the client in the next phase. Note that the public key certificate authenticates the server to the client. In case of the anonymous Dave Hellman, you have first there is no authenticate or certificate, then the server exchange, the server key exchange, where you have 2 parameters, J, P, and JS. In this method, anonymous entity does not have a certificate. The server exchange message, the server sent the Diffman-Hellman parameters and it have key. In case of the fixed one, we have the Dev-Hellman certificate is sent first, and then after there is no server key exchange. In case of the ephemeral Dev-Hellman, we have the certificate of RSA or DSS certificate is sent first, and then the server key exchange is sent. So the private key associated with the certificate allows the server to signal a message. The public key allows the recipient to verify the signature. In the second message, the server sends a Diffman-Hellman parameters and they have key signed by its private key. Summary of the phase 2. The server is authenticated to the client. The client knows the public key of the server if required. In phase 3, the client key exchange and authentication. You have three cases here. The certificate, the client key exchange, and the certificate verified. Let's see the explanation. In case of this certificate certificate verify, if the client has sent a certificate declaring that it owns the public key in the certificate, it needs to prove that it knows the corresponding private key. The client key exchange. After sending the certificate message, the client sends a client exchange key message, which includes its correspond or contribution to the pre-master secret. And the content of the message are based on the key exchange algorithm used. In case of the certificate, to be certain of itself, the client send a certificate message. It includes the chain of certificate that certify the client. The message is sent only if the client has request a certificate in phase 2. In the summary of phase 3, the client is authenticated to the server. Both the client and the server know the pre-master secret. Finally, phase 4, finalizing and finishing. This diagram illustrates how it works. Let's see. On the client side, you have the change server spec, or the client sends a change server spec message to show that it has moved all the cipher suit sets and the parameter from the pending state to the active state. Finished. In the finished one, you have the next message is also sent by the client. And it is a finished message that announces the end of the handshaking protocol by the client. The change cipher spec on the server side, the server will send the message that shows it has also moved all the cyber suit set and parameters from pending state to the active state. And finally, the server sends a finished message to show the handshaking is completed. In summary, the client and the server are ready to extend data. Thank you. This part will be explained by Arifin.
মঙ্গলবারে পরে আসবো এবার।
Assalamualaikum everyone. I am Shah Jarifin, ID 201. So I'm going to talk about the cipher protocol now. We all know this by this time that cipher suit negotiations and cryptographic generation, all this takes place in the handshaking protocol. Here a particular message is exchanged named the change cipher protocol. Though it's done in the phase 4 of handshaking protocol, it is denoted as a separate protocol for its importance. Its primary function is to shape the landscape of encrypted communication, as we can see in the upcoming slides. So this is a basic diagram of how chain cipher protocol works. At first, the client says hello to the server, then the server says hello in return, and the server hello part is done. Then the keys are exchanged, and from the client side, the chain cipher spec is sent, and in return from the server side, the chain cipher spec is also returned. Here, the chain cipher spec messages are used to indicate that in SSL communication, gradually the communication shifts from unencrypted to encrypted communication, and all these chain cipher spec messages are of on byte. Now we want to move a bit more into the working principle of chain cipher protocol. So there are two states. The first one is the active state, and the second one is the pending state. In the pending state, the server, the client, keeps track of parameters and the secrets, and in the active state, it holds the parameter and secrets used by the record protocol to verify, encrypt, or decrypt messages. So there are two sets of values. First one is read or inbound, and secondly, write or outbound. You can also say it like the sending and receiving on. So at first, the client sends a chain ciphers message, then it moves to the write or sending parameters from pending to active state. In this part, they deal with the sign and the encrypt outbound messages. On the server side, simultaneously it moves from the read parameters from pending to active state, where the verification and decryption inbound messages are text, and the process is continued vice versa. We can see this diagram for the clarification. Here we can see the on the left we have client, on the right we have got the server, and we can see multiple tables. Each table denote active state and pending state, where we can see both writing and reading states are clarified. So if we want to get further details, we can just have a quick look around the diagram. So secondly, we have the alert protocol. The alert protocol is used to convey error messages and other information during the SSL or TLS handshake process, or while data is being exchanged. These messages are called alert messages, and according to the level, they can either be fatal or simply warning. Here we can see a list of some of the common alert protocols. So at first, there's close notify alert with a value 0. It is sent whenever the sender is going to close the connection and will not send any more messages. Then, if any inappropriately formatted message is received, an unexpected message alert will be provided for value 10. Let's say for value 20, there is the bad record MAC. This MAC denotes message authentication code, about which we will learn later. But for now, just trust me that whenever such an alert is received, it indicates that the integrity of the received message has been compromised. So there are list of around 40 to around 8 rest of the messages, uh, which contains of some which covers some various warning and close alerts that is provided here. You can learn more about them by exploring the values. Now we are moving forward to the last part of SSL protocols, which is the record protocol. So in the record protocol part, the application data is received from the upper layers, and in and for those data, the record protocol ensures confidentiality and mass integrity using some shared key, which is already predefined in the handshaking protocol. So let's see the processing steps. So at first, as you have mentioned already, the application data is found from the upper layers, which is further fragmented into each chunks or blocks of each of 2 to the power 14 bytes. Then these data is compressed so that each of these fragmented blocks are less than 1024 bytes. Then it is the MAC, or as I already mentioned, message authentication code that's added with it. This whole data is encrypted, and finally, along with the encrypted data, SSL record header is appended. So the size and the compression steps are mentioned here, as you have already said. So this figure shows that on the right, we can see the application data is compressed into chunks or blocks of each of 2 to the power 14 bytes. Then understand that.
Hello. Arifin, I think you are a little, your net got a little disconnected just at the beginning of this slide. If you can.
Okay.
See.
Okay. So in this figure, we can see two pictures. On the right, we can see the record protocol header, which shows the encapsulation, and on the left, we can see the process, which we already mentioned. So in this process, at first, the payload is received from the upper layer, then it's fragmented, then it goes under the compression and final encryption, and finally, the record protocol header is added. But as we already mentioned in the alert protocol, that if a bad MAC is received, it ensures that the integrity of the message is compromised. So how can I understand that? To understand that, we need to undergo the MAC calculation, which is shown in this slide. So the compressed fragment, that is the compressed data on the right, it is added with some MAC secret key, which is predefined. Then it undergoes some padding. A sequence number is added. There's a particular compression, compress type, and the compress length. These are predefined. So this whole thing undergoes some hash algorithm. This is also predefined between server and client, whether they will choose SHA-on or MD5 hashing algorithm. This hashing, along with another secret key and a second time padding, is calculated for another hashing algorithm. This is also predefined. Finally, the MAC calculation is completed. So whenever this MAC is sent to the server side, we can see the whole process reversed. So when the RPH is removed, the encrypted message is decrypted, and then it is decompressed. Then there's a particular checking by which you can understand that whether the MAC is bad MAC or whether the integrity is compromised or not. So that's all from the record protocol, and now the rest of the presentation will become my friends.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you can start.
Assalamu alaikum. Now I myself Naimul Haq, ID 214, and my other teammate Sakunul Jaman 216 will talk about TLS. So here is the table of content of our presentation: introduction, TLS version, cipher switch, asymmetric and symmetric cryptography in TLS, importance of TLS, and TLS workflow. So, what is TLS? TLS stands for Transport Layer Security. It is the successor to Security Socket Layer. TLS is a protocol that provides privacy and data integrity between two communicating applications. TLS is a cryptographic layer that provides end-to-end security of data sent between applications over the internet. So, what TLS ensures? TLS ensures the third party may tamper with any message by encryption, authentication, and integrity. Encryption, encrypting the data being transmitted so it is the unreadable to anyone expect the intended receipt. Authentication, verifying the identity of the server and sometimes the client, ensuring you are communicating with the genuine third party. And integrity, ensuring that the data cannot be modified by the transit without detection. So now I will talk about the TLS version. TLS 1.0. Released in 1999, it was an upgrade of SSL 3.0 and addressing various security issues. TLS 1.1 introduced 2006. It made further improvements like protection against the cipher blockchaining attacks. TLS 1.2 released in 2008. This version added support for stronger cryptographic algorithm and removed some insecure features. TLS 1.3, the latest version finalized in 2018, offers enhanced security and speed, simplifying the handshake process and removing outdated features. So now I will talk about the asymmetric cryptography in TLS. Asymmetric cryptography, also known as a public key cryptography, involves two keys: a public key which can be shared openly and a private key which is kept secret by the owners. Here how it works. Key exchange. In TLS, when a client wants to establish a secure connection with a server, they engage in a key exchange process using asymmetric cryptography. The server has a public-private key pair. The public key is widely distributed and can be used by anyone, while the private key is kept and secret by the server. During the key exchange, the client generates a random symmetric encryption key called the session key. Encrypts is using the server's public key and sends it to the server. Only the server with the private key can decrypt this message and obtain the session key. This session key is then used for symmetric encryption during the rest of the communication session. Digital signatures. Asymmetric cryptography is also used to create digital signatures. A server can sign its message with its private key, and the client can verify the signature using the server's public key. Symmetric cryptography in TLS. Once a secure connection is established using asymmetric cryptography, the actual data transfer uses symmetric cryptography, where both parties share a secret key. Here, how it works: shared session key. After the key exchange, both the client and server possesses the same session key. This session key is a secret key that is used for symmetric encryption and decryption of the data transmitted between them. Symmetric encryption algorithms like AES are commonly used for this purpose. Data encryption. All data exchange between the client and server during the TLS session is encrypted using the shared session key. This ensures that even if intercepted by an attacker, the data remains confidential. Data decryption. Both the client and servers can use the shared session key to decrypt the data they receive, allowing them to read the information exchanged securely. Now, my other teammate will talk about cipher suites and rest of the things.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
So now I will talk about the cipher suites in TLS. Uh, I will just in short explain what are these parts of the cipher suite. Firstly, it comes the key exchange algorithm. So the key exchange algorithm is used for securely establishing the shared keys, and then comes the encryption algorithm. It's used for encrypting the transmitted data, and then the MAC algorithm. Uh, this MAC means actually message authentication code algorithm. So it's used for ensuring the data integrity and the authenticity. And lastly, PRF or pseudo-random function is used for generating the key material. So in this slide, I have shown the 5 cipher suites supported by TLS version 1.3. Before this version, TLS had 37 cipher suites, but TLS 1.3 only allows 5 of these cipher suites to be used. So the first part of the cipher suite TLS, this indicates is a TLS cipher suite, and this cipher suite has mainly 3 parts. So if you can follow my cursor, for the first cipher suite AES underscore 128, this is the key exchange algorithm. Then a GCM, this one is the 3 of these, AES 128, GCM, and SHA 256. These 3 things are mainly the first 3 parts of the key exchange algorithm, encryption algorithm, and MAC algorithm. The PRF is actually used inside the MAC algorithm. The SHA-256 is the encryption algorithm that's used for encrypting encrypting the transmitted data, and the GCM is used for MAC algorithm. So now I will talk about the importance of TLS. So firstly, TLS plays a crucial role in the secure communication over the internet. Its benefits are, we can just tell in short. Firstly, data encryption. It ensures the confidentiality. Then data integrity. It ensures the data is tamper proof. And then authentication. It ensures that the trustworthy communication between server and client. Then secure online transactions. It's especially essential for e-commerce security. Then compliance. This means actually the regulatory compliance along with the law and order. Then the privacy of the users. Then ACO and trustworthiness is actually very valuable importance of TLS. Then comes the prevention of man in the middle attacks. So TLS 1.3 is actually, it has been developed for preventing all kind of man in the middle attacks. Then supporting modern protocols. So TLS actually supports only the modern and non-hackable, I will say it like this, protocols. And all the previous legacy and outdated protocols, those were being able to hack are dropped. And then lastly, well, TLS 1.3 is now the global standard. So moving on, I will now talk about that workflow of TLS version 1.3. So before that, I will just to perceive it easier, I will just say this, that we all know about HTTPS. Actually, it's the TLS that is working along with HTTP to make it HTTPS. Actually, I have given a link here. If you visit the link in your free time, then you will see what kind of TLS version and what cipher suit algorithms, etc., are deployed in your browser. I will not waste time showing this, and I have just given the link. And also you will see it in the book. The transport layer protocol is the IETF standard version of the SSL protocol. So actually nowadays or in the future, you will, when you will hear SSL used uh, in any server or client, then if the guy says the TLS is updated and the latest version, the SSL, actually he's meaning that they are using TLS 1.3. So now uh, actually the basic concepts of TLS 1.3 handshake and all the protocols of TLS will be presented in the next slide by Riaz. But I will now just in short uh, show how the workflow of the TLS encryption works. So firstly, actually on the left side we have the client and on the right side we have the server. Then firstly the client will send, the client has actually three two things. So the client sends the client hello message. The client hello message includes the protocol version, the client random, and a list of cipher suits. Because support for insecure cipher suits has been removed from TLS 1.3, the number of possible cipher suits is vastly reduced. The client hello also includes the parameters that will be used for calculating the pre-master secret. So the client is assuming that it knows the server's preferred key exchange methods. So then the server generates the master secret. So at this point, the server has received the client random and the client's parameters, and it knows the cipher suits that the client supports. So now it has the server random. So now it can generate its own server random, and then the server will, actually this is uh, generating the server side key. So now the server will send the server hello to back to the TLS 1.3, back to the client. In TLS 1.3, this thing is just in very short, uh, taking just one round trip. So now actually when this is done, the handshake is complete. Now the mm, client will send the get request and the server will send the post request, and actually now secure communication is being done by TLS 1.3. So this was all from my presentation. Now next part will be handled by Riaz.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Uh, Assalamu alaikum everyone. So before I start, I'd like to thank Rakin Zaman and Pial for their wonderful introduction to TLS. I'll be tasked with elaborating the TLS protocols. So as Faria mentioned in her elaboration of SSL, SSL is far outdated in the present day. TLS is everywhere. So not just websites, but voice over IP, email, which utilizes SMTP or POP3 protocols, instant messaging, FTP, even in this Google Meet call, my voice, the screen I'm sharing right now, the outgoing data is using TLS 1.3 encryption. So understanding the modern day security requires a very good understanding of TLS. So what I intend to do today on that note is by explaining the TLS protocols, I want to give you an idea of how TLS works in the real world. So first and first, there are three TLS protocols. They are the TLS handshaking protocol, the TLS record protocol, and the TLS alert protocol. This was taken directly from the IETF standard for TLS 3, TLS 1.3. If you want to go through that, please have a look. It includes a lot of minor implementation details and a lot of cool tricks. So if you have the time, please do go for it. So we'll start with the handshaking. So handshaking is important, right? Handshaking signifies the start of a friendship, perhaps a business deal, and in our case, the start of a connection. Handshaking is the crux of TLS. So let's say we want to go to IoT's website, so iotoic-dhaka.edu, and then we navigate to the security overview, the secure connection settings. It mentions that the connection to the site is encrypted and authenticated using TLS 1.2, and then a very cryptic sequence of IoT's domain cipher suits specifically for TLS 1.2. He mentioned the cipher suits for TLS 1, TLS 1.3. I'll be elaborating on this. And worry not, by the end of this presentation, we'll understand what all of these characters mean and hopefully far more. So IoT cipher source specifies three portions. The first portion is which TLS version it's using. So it's using TLS 1.2 and not 1.3, the outdated version. Secondly, it mentions ECDHE underscore RSA. So ECDHE stands for elliptical curve Diffie-Hellman. We've already studied Diffie-Hellman in some previous presentation. It serves as a key exchange algorithm, and it uses RSA as its public key authentication mechanism. And the P-256 signifies that the elliptical curve parameter is 256. Then the AES 256 GCM mentions that the symmetric key cryptography algorithm used for the MAC or HMAC for TLS's point of view is AES with a 256-bit key, and the mode of operation is Galloway counter mode. We've already studied counter mode before mid in one of our topics. This is one extension to it that implements additional features. So now we want to go through the TLS 1.2 handshaking protocol. Since IoT itself deems TLS 1.2 to be good enough for us, 1.2 handshake is what we'll start with. But more importantly, TLS 1.2 provides us some intuitive basis as to what's happening before we move on to more advanced strategies like TLS 1.3. So first things first, let's say we want to go to IoT's website. Okay, when we try to access the website, our web browser or the client, it initiates the conversation with the following message. The client hello. The client hello contains three different fields. One is the client version, which is the max TLS version supported by this client, my web browser. Secondly, there's a random number generated that helps us avoid replay attacks, because if another intruder tries to replay this message, it will have the same random number so that a server will understand that this is a replay. And thirdly, it contains a list of all the cipher suits that my browser is currently supporting. Once the client hello is sent, the server responds the server hello. the server hello chooses which TLS version to use. So for instance, if my browser supports TLS 1.3 and IoT only supports TLS 1.2, the server will let me know that I am only fine with TLS 1.2. It also chooses a cipher suit. So the server chooses both of these specifications. It also contains a certificate and a public key. So as mentioned in the cipher suit, the RSA, this provides us authentication, and we'll know how later. Then it provides a server key exchange parameter. So we mentioned that IoT uses elliptical curve Diffie-Hellman. So Diffie-Hellman requires parameters to generate the master key. So the values of G and N or P and N, depending on how you implement it, this is sent in the server key exchange. Then the server provides a digital signature. So the client, when he tries to authenticate the digital signature with the public key provided in the certificate, it knows that this specific server is the server that generated this digital signature, and therefore it is now the server is authenticated. And then the server says the server hello done. The client responds with its own client key exchange or the client side key exchange parameters for IoT's case, which is Diffie-Hellman. Then it sends a change cipher spec. It signifies that all following messages from now on will be encrypted. And then it provides a finished message, which contains all the previous messages but encrypted. Now, since this contains all the previous messages, attacks like man in the middle, where an intruder could perhaps be pretending to be a client and telling the server to use a weaker version of TLS or maybe even SSL, since this finished message is being sent, the server knows exactly what was sent before. And the exact same thing is replied by the server, another change cipher spec, and another finished message. And once we're done with these two bidirectional two round trips, we are completely done establishing the authentication. Now we can send encrypted data for however long necessary, and then finally we can provide our close message. So we can see that this entire process requires two round trips. So for instance, I'm in Southeast Asia. If I want to connect to a server that is in America, it will require 200 milliseconds per round trip. So two round trips will take 400 milliseconds or half a second, which is very fast. I need TLS to be very fast so that I don't wait around when every time I load a website, I need to wait like 5 or 6 seconds for the TLS to get done. So when we move on to TLS 1.3 handshake, do note that this was implemented in 2018. TLS 1.2 was implemented in 2008. So in these 10 years, what they did was they implemented a lot of features, and what they managed to do is that the exchange is even faster. It only requires one single round trip, as Rakinuzaman mentioned in his elaboration of TLS 1.3. TLS 1.3 also supports session restoring and better security. So when I log into a website that implements TLS like Google or YouTube or Facebook, we will see that it loads significantly faster than older websites that are not as secure like IoT's website. Then the second protocol that TLS implements is the record protocol. It is very similar to the SSL protocol, and for the sake of brevity, I will not elaborate it too much, but the only primary difference between SSL's record protocol and TLS record protocol is that it uses an HMAC. SSL used a MAC, or a message authentication code. So TLS takes this MAC and applies a hash which includes the protocol version in this MAC, making it a hash-based message authentication. The rest of the specifications are exactly the same as SSL. It divides the message, it compresses the message, encrypts the message, and it does the opposite process for the incoming messages, i.e. reassembly, decompressing, and decrypting. Similarly, the third, or TLS alert protocol, is almost exactly the same as SSL's alert protocol, but it only has less. So there are a total of 26 alerts. They are categorized into two categories: closure alerts and error alerts. There are two closure alerts: close notify, which notifies the recipient that the sender is now closing a connection, and the user cancel, which notifies that the sender is canceling a handshake, which is generally for reasons unrelated to protocol failure. For instance, the sender is willing to disconnect before the handshake is even finished. And then we have several error alerts. We only mentioned three here. One is the unexpected message. So like an inappropriate message is received, like the wrong handshake message or a premature application data message and whatnot. And in proper implementations, this should never be expected. A bad record MAC, which indicates that the HMAC header that was received, it cannot be deprotected, and it only happens when the network is corrupted. And handshake failure, when the sender was unable to negotiate an acceptable set of security parameters, like TLS versions are mismatching or the cipher suit is mismatching. Thank you. I will hand over the baton to Above and Mimi for their presentation.
চার্জ পর্যন্ত শেষ এই ফালতুই দেখতে দেখতে